Welcome everyone to the webinar, How the Attendant Benefits Everyone. We're still gathering in the last few attendees. We will start at exactly the top of the hour, so bear with us for a few more seconds, and we'll get going. I've got 2 o'clock Central straight up, so we will get started. Welcome again to the webinar, How the Attendant Benefits Everyone. I'm Scott Webb, editor of AQUA Magazine, and I have with me Keith Roberts, technical sales and training manager for Poolside Tech. Keith has been in the industry for 16 years. He started his career with Hayward, where he did training and taught classes up and down the East Coast, and worked in the call center assisting builders, servicers, and distributors, as well as consumers. He joined Poolside Tech a couple years ago, and Keith is going to tell us about the rather impressive capabilities of the Attendant, a real advance in pool equipment control. So without further ado, let's get started. Keith?
Thank you very much, Charlie and Scott. Thanks for having us. We're certainly excited to be here today. And with that being said, I do have a lot of ground to cover, so we will go ahead and jump straight into it. I wanted to start off with our solution, how the Attendant benefits everyone. There are some really decent automation systems out in the marketplace today, but one thing that really sets us apart is that we are truly a smart automation system. A lot of things that people are used to having to program and so forth, we do that automatically for you. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Our schedule today is we're gonna go ahead and cover the hardware first. That's inside of the unit. We'll talk about that, some features and benefits as we go, and then we'll roll into the features and benefits and then wrap up today, hopefully with a live demo, time permitting. So here is the actual solution, the Attendant itself. And one thing I wanted to point out, we're going to go into the hardware on the next slide, but I wanted to kind of show you guys, if you can follow my mouse here, this is the hardware that is located inside the Attendant. So up here where my mouse is currently, these are my 5 actuator ports. Then we have 8 high voltage relay ports, and the high voltage relays are located down here. Next to that, or underneath that, we have 4 serial bus ports, or RS-485 smart ports. We also have, excuse me, 5 switch ports available to you. These are dry contact switches, as well as 5 temperature sensor ports, and I'll explain that a little further in a few moments. And then, of course, wrapping up the hardware that's inside of the box here, we have 5 low voltage relays. So we'll go ahead and talk about the hardware. As you can see in the previous slide, our box is 18 by 18 inches. It is a plastic box, and that is for a reason. We felt it beneficial to go with a plastic box instead of giving you a large metal box that included a load center. We do not have a load center. But the reason we did that is Wi-Fi simply does not like those metal boxes. So they have a hard time getting a signal in and out, and some manufacturers even have to sell you an antenna to get that signal in and out of that box. With us being in a plastic box, we don't have to worry about that. All units are dual voltage. They ship from the factory at 120, but they can be wired at 240. We 100% quality test every unit before it ships. We test every individual port just to make sure that everything is working properly when it is received in the field. Our Wi-Fi connectivity, since we are a software company, we work with 2.4 gigahertz. We also work with 5 gigahertz and including dual band routers. And I know a lot of people in the industry have had issues with dual band routers. Not with us, you won't. We also work with mesh networks. So because of that plastic enclosure, our Wi-Fi card and antenna are built in, and we simply just don't have the Wi-Fi issues that people are used to dealing with. Also, we do all of our updates over the air. So we're constantly innovating and adding new features monthly. So let's talk about the individual ports. So we have 8 high voltage relays. The type of equipment that would be wired into a high voltage relay is going to be legacy single speed pumps. as well as your legacy lighting solutions. And what I mean by that is pretty much any pool manufacturer's lighting in the industry, with the exception of one, and I'll explain that a little later. Spa blowers, chemical dispensing equipment, as well as water leveling equipment. All of that would be wired into a high voltage relay. Next, let's talk about actuators for a few moments. We give you 5 actuator ports. I think industry standard is pretty much 4. But we do some really unique things with actuators. We have patented technology where we're able to stop an actuator in any position. To make that a simple explanation is we give you the ability to virtually cam actuators. So you don't have to go out and physically cam that actuator any longer. You will actually be able to do that in our software while you stand and watch that feature to make sure you're getting the effect you want. Once you have the camming complete, you'll simply save that into your configuration. Another thing that we do with actuators, if you have 2 water features powered by the same actuator with no cam set, if you turn on both of those features, we actually will stop that actuator, or stop the valve with the actuator at 50%, and we'll split that flow to both of your water features without any camming necessary. And then finally, the last exciting thing that we do with actuators is, in today's world, when we have an actuator failure, a lot of times we don't know it until it's too late. We've either drained a body of water, or we've caused a possible catastrophic failure by sending water where it shouldn't be going. With our system, because we are a smart automation system, we are smart enough to turn the valves, or excuse me, turn the pumps off whenever an actuator valve does not actuate when we command it to. So if you have an actuator fail, not only are we going to shut the pumps down, but we're going to populate an alert on the app that lets the homeowner as well as the servicer know that that actuator has failed. Next, let's talk about the 4 serial bus ports. Those are our smart ports. Anything that we communicate through serial bus ports, we're actually talking to the equipment. We're not simply turning it on and off. Things that we communicate with there are going to be variable speed pumps, as well as salt chlorine generators, modern heaters and heat pumps, DMX lighting, which is manufactured by POW Lighting, and we'll talk a little more about DMX lighting a little later. And then, of course, mix and match equipment from manufacturers. We also give you 5 temperature sensors. Now, most of the industry is used to 3 temp sensors, and the reason for that is typically they give you 1 for water, 1 for solar, and 1 for ambient. We have the ability to control multiple bodies of water out of this one automation system. So that's why we elected to give you 5 temperature sensors. We do like to have 1 ambient sensor to just know what's going on with the weather in case Wi-Fi went down. But other than that, you could monitor 4 bodies, and we could wire in more bodies if we needed to. So that's why we give you 5 temperature sensors. We also have the 5 low voltage relays. Things that are going to be wired into low voltage relays are going to be the older heating and heat cool units, as well as some autofill equipment, and then some countdown timer legacy variable speed pumps. And then I believe wrapping up the hardware, we give you 5 input switches or dry contact switches. Things that are going to go there are going to be your flow switches, whether it's general flow or for chemistry. Pool cover sensors. By the way, we have the ability to monitor pool cover sensors, whether they're open or closed. And not only that, since we are a smart automation system, you let us know what water features are above water level, and we will not let the consumers cut on any of the above water level features that could possibly sink or damage that cover. So we protect that cover for you. Float style autofill switch, spa side remotes, the 4-button by Jandy and Pentair. We can operate those, and we also make them programmable. So if you didn't actually want to use them for a spa but wanted to use them for lighting, you could program them to do that. Another patented technology that we have is dirty flow detection. We have the ability, monitoring a flow switch, whether it's general flow or for a salt chlorine generator, we have the ability to let customers know when that filter is dirty. So we'll actually populate a card right up on the screen to let them know that it's time for them to clean that filter. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the features and benefits. And one of the first things I want to talk about is heating or smart temperature controls. Our smart temperature controls in the marketplace today, consumers typically have no idea how much it's going to cost to heat a swimming pool. And a lot of times it's not until they receive a gas bill until they realize the damage that they have done by heating the pool. And I don't mean that negatively, but running a gas heater can be very expensive. So with our smart temperature controls, not only can we let customers know how much it's going to cost to heat their pool, we'll also be able to tell them how long it's going to take to heat the pool. So it communicates estimated cost per event, and that will allow a consumer to cancel should it not align with their household budget. We also have a ready buy feature. The ready buy timer allows you to tell the system what time you would like to either get into your pool or your hot tub. Maybe it's 6 hours from now, I want to get in my hot tub at 104 degrees. Our ready by time feature allows you to set that time, and then we'll actually determine what time we need to turn the heater on so that we hit your heating requirement by the time that you've requested. Next is a feature that we call permissions or Airbnb mode or both. Permissions allow you to give permission to family members. That would be like a permanent permission where you could allow family members to control the pool. But in Airbnb mode, you have the ability to allow the renter to utilize their own phone to control the swimming pool. So you no longer have to leave a device in the property. The customer that owns the pool will be able to share that pool with them, set their check-in date and time as well as their checkout date and time. And that way the app will only be active when they're actually in renting the property. Some other things that we're capable of is access. So you have 3 levels of access and permissions. We have administrative access, which obviously grants the user permission to do anything in the app. Then we have a level called full access, which allows the user to turn on or off anything in the app, but they cannot edit anything like schedules. And then, of course, you have the ability to select each piece of equipment, and we call that partial access, where you can pick and choose what pieces of equipment you allow the renter or that particular person that you're sharing the property with to utilize. And even if we're talking pool heater, we allow you to set a maximum temperature. So we allow you to prevent a homeowner or a renter from heating the swimming pool, say to 104 degrees. You could actually lock that out at 90 degrees if you wanted to. Also, our smart schedule revision or reversion, I should say, my apologies, will put the system back on schedule at the conclusion of an interrupted event. So basically what that means is that we actually have the ability to resume existing schedules if they get interrupted. And a lot of our competition simply can't do that. They wait and pick up the next schedule and they lose that full schedule. Next, let's go to energy savings. One thing that we're able to do is show the energy cost and consumptions, and we're able to communicate that by the device type and track historically in an easy to read graph. So basically we allow the consumer or the customer to look at daily, weekly, monthly, or annual usage, and you have the ability to see the cost in dollars and cents broken out with electricity and gas, but you also can look at the energy usage. So the electricity and the gas would switch from dollars and cents to kilowatt hours and the BTUs. So if you had an Airbnb owner, they could actually utilize this to determine what their heating costs are going to be. We are the only automation system that also factors in the weather along with historical performance to know the ideal time to activate heating, chilling, and solar systems. So we allow the consumer or the end user to make informed decisions for a household budget, and we put the homeowner in control. Chemical monitoring. Chemistry is something that's very exciting for us. So I told you earlier, we can control multiple bodies of water. Our chemistry module is actually NSF 50 listed. So our system is NSF 50 listed for commercial properties. So you can take an attendant with chemistry and put that on a commercial property. and that will be perfectly fine. Our chemistry management and auto dosing capabilities will measure, record, and react to the ongoing chemical needs of the pool. The smart filtration cycle automatically determined based on the real-time chemistry of the pool and weather forecasting, and then also monitoring the amount of sanitizer and pH in a pool and dispensing chemicals to address any imbalances while increasing the speeds of the variable speed pump to prevent potential staining. So ultimately, long story short, we are a full chemistry controller. We can monitor the pH, ORP, but we also can be set up for dosing as well. Now, since we're talking about water chemistry, let's talk about water level for just a few minutes. Water leveling in autofill is something that is actually built into our system for free. What that means is that the software is already there to run a water level or an autofill at no additional cost to you. The only thing you would actually need would be the piece parts to set up autofill. So for an example, you would need either a 2 or 3 pronged probe to measure the high-low, and then of course a solenoid valve as far as to run the pump. Now the nice thing that we do is we actually include water leveling and autofill in the water quality report, which I will show you a little later. But in the industry today, autofill is basically a unit that has a flashing light on it. No way of knowing if something's wrong unless you walk out and look at that. With us, we're going to put it in the water quality report, and we're going to let you know exactly how many gallons it's pumping every day. We're also going to tell you how long that autofill runs each day. And then we're going to take it one step further and do it just a little better than anyone else. If your autofill develops a leak and we notice that increase in water usage that's consistent, we'll actually shut your pumps down. We'll populate a card that lets you know you need to check that autofill to make sure that you're not continuing to soak your neighbor's yard. Remote diagnostics is something, our system has so much remote diagnostics built into it for the service industry. Our system will notify a pool pro when homeowners' equipment is experiencing an issue requires any attention, taking a proactive approach. So basically what you're seeing on the screen, on the right-hand side, anytime that an installer installs a pool, they set themselves as a maintainer. That automatically puts that client into the service company's client list. And they have the ability to go in and see each of their customers. And if you'll notice on the screen there, on the right-hand side, you'll see a red number 1 on the first 3 accounts. That is letting the service company know that they have 1 alert on the pool. And hypothetically, if they were to click on Michael, it may be that pump drive error that you see on the left. So because we're a smart automation system, we have the ability to communicate with the equipment. So we're actually talking to that equipment. So whenever you have a pump that goes down, this is the type of information that we're able to provide to you right in the app. So as a service company, you can see that right up front. You could even take a proactive approach if you wanted to call your customers each morning after reviewing their alerts and let them know what their issues are. You can only imagine how the pool industry would react, or consumers would react, if they had a proactive servicer. So some of the benefits that we feel are important to our servicers, number 1 are going to be the alerts and history. So our app follows, you have the ability, and I will show it to you in just a few minutes, the alerts and history. Every single thing that occurs on our automation system is recorded and stored in the cloud. So basically, you have the ability to go in and look. And I know in the industry, there have been many times that consumers have swore up and down they did or did not do something. So now with our app, you have the ability to go in to that customer's account. You can look at their alerts and history. And if they did do something incorrectly, you could use this to educate them and prevent them from causing issues in the future. Our app also allows for branding opportunities, and I will show you that when I start the live demo. But we will actually put your logo in 3 different places in our app because we want to make sure that we keep the service company, and that's the logo I'm referring to, the service company's name in front of that consumer so that they don't accidentally call, your competition, right? Nobody wants that to happen. So that's basically some benefits that we have for our servicers. And then if you'll notice on the right-hand side picture there, it says clogged equipment. That is an example of us monitoring the filter to determine when that filter is dirty. Another neat feature, you heard me mention DMX lighting earlier when we were referring to the hardware. So let's start with, I can operate any of the regional or manufacturer's pool lighting that's out there. But the lighting that's out there currently today is a click style lighting. So you have to cycle through the colors they give you, have to cycle through the shows they give you till you get to the show you want. With POW lighting, which is a DMX style light, which stands for digital multiplex lighting, those lights are fully programmable. Now, not only are they fully programmable, but in lighting, when you're wiring them, if you're using anybody else's lights, you're going to be utilizing high voltage relays to power those lights. So if you had 2 to 4 zones of lighting, you would have to use 2 to 4 relays to power that. With the DMX style lights by POW, they're actually smart lights. So we would wire those into a serial bus port. So that would be 2 to 4 relays that you no longer need. So what are we able to do with DMX lighting? We allow you to create custom color shows, not just creating custom colors, but you will actually control how long each color is lit, as well as the transition from one color to the next, how long that takes. So you now can create custom color shows with your favorite sports team. You could have holiday themed parties. And so you can create these shows, you give them a name and save them in your palette, and then you'll be able to utilize them later. Another fun feature that we do with DMX lighting is we allow you to synchronize those lights to Spotify. And what does that mean? That means that we actually will make the lights dance to the beat of music with Spotify. POW Lighting manufactures pool lighting, spa lighting, landscape lighting, and strip lighting. So you could imagine an entire backyard lit up with all POW lighting, and you were having a party, you could actually make those lights dance to the beat of the music. And that's a very fun feature for homeowners. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the live demo, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll over. All right, so hopefully everyone, Scott, if you'll just confirm for me, everyone can see the screen there.
Yep.
Perfect.
Super.
Okay. All right, so I intentionally did not have the app open right away because I wanted to open it and show you the first place that we're going to put the service company's logo. So I'm going to click on the Poolside app, and if you'll watch the screen, you'll actually see your logo here flash for just a second. So every single time the consumer opens the app, they're going to see the installer's logo or the maintainer's logo. Another location that you'll see that, in the top right-hand corner, you'll see 3 horizontal lines. That is what we refer to as the hamburger menu. So anytime during the demo you hear me say, I'm going to touch the hamburger menu, you'll know exactly where I'm going. So when I touch that hamburger menu, if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, we're going to put your logo down there as well, and we're going to gray it out there. And then about middle of this page, you'll see a green icon that says help and support. When you click that, this is where the maintainer's information will live. So this would be his address, his company name. The 3 links that are at the bottom of the page are live links and of course optional. So if you don't have a website, you don't have to include that if you don't want your email included. But basically, we want to make sure, and I said it earlier, that we keep your name in front of your customer so they don't accidentally call the competition. All right. So now that we're in the screen, just a quick overview of what you're looking at. Top left-hand corner will be my ambient temperature outside. Right below that, you'll see everything is great. You've heard me refer to the word card several times. This is my information center, and this is the card. As different things are occurring in the app, you may have multiple cards, and you would simply swipe through them just like you would on your phone. Down below that, that's going to be our bodies of water. You have pool spa, and then we have a themes button that lives there. And then down below that, you have a chemistry beaker, which we won't go through today, but this is where you would set up your chemistry for your pH and ORP. You can set your target level as well as alerts for too high and too low. To the right of the chemistry beaker is going to be the ready by timer that you heard me talk about when we were talking about heating, and I'll demo that for you in just a second. And then to the right of that is an on-off button. So if you had showed up at a customer's pad and there was a bunch of features and everything was running and you just needed everything to cut off, you can simply touch that button and we'll turn everything in the pool off for you. Below that are my equipment buttons. So you see heater, cleaner, pool light, and filter. So in this demo, I have a pool spa combo set up. So one of the unique features about our system is that we are smart enough to link equipment for you. What do I mean by that? So if you had another automation system set up and you hadn't programmed anything and you simply went to turn on a heater, they would try to fire that heater, but no water would be flowing. With us, because of our patented technology with our flow, we know all possible paths of water and we know what equipment is necessary to operate any piece of equipment. So simply by touching the heater button, I will turn on the filter pump, and as well, I'll begin monitoring my pH and ORP. So what I'd like to do is demonstrate the heater for you. One thing I failed to mention, that off button right below that 76.5 degrees, that is actually my water temperature. Okay, now keep in mind this is demo, so it may not be accurate, but the water temperature in this demo is 76 degrees. My gas heater is going to be set to 87 degrees. So when I touch that gas heater button, you'll notice that it's going to populate a new card at the top of the screen that says, hey, the pool is heating to 87 degrees, and we will have that ready for you in 6 hours and 48 minutes. And I know that's something that most of you have never seen before. That is a very popular question that we get. How long does it take to heat my pool and how much does it cost, right? And I know in the industry, I used to avoid that question. But in today's world with Poolside and the Attendant, we have the ability to tell you exactly how long it's going to take to heat that pool. And if you are interested and you're on a budget and you're concerned about how much heating costs, simply touch that blue review button on that card. And I'll even let you know that this one heating event, if you read that very last line, is going to cost you $49. So if the consumer were on a budget, they now can make an educated decision on whether or not they can afford to heat the pool today or not. If the customer is not on a budget, odds are they'll never touch that review button. All right, so next, let's go ahead and click on the hamburger menu in the top right corner. And I'm going to come down, we'll hit scheduler first. I'm going to click on scheduler here. We have the easiest scheduler in the industry. Okay, now we default at the top of the page to pool heater. I'm going to touch that, but as you can see, you can pick and choose what equipment you want to create schedules for. So we're going to leave it on pool heater. I intentionally just have one schedule created. So when you touch on pool heater, you'll see that I have a 10 to 4 schedule set for 87 degrees. To edit that schedule, simply touch that blue bar. You then can move these sliders up and down to adjust the time that you are interested. Okay, once you get it, then notice in the bottom left corner, you'll see the time of day moving, so you'll know exactly where you are and don't have to guess. Once you get that initial schedule set the way you want it, it is very simple to duplicate that schedule for the entire week. To do this, there are 2 ways. I'm only going to show you the short one today, but simply clicking that green check button that says done in the bottom right corner, and then you'll see a blue plus. And I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to build this whole week's heater schedule out. So I'm going to hit done plus, done plus. So about 3 to 5 seconds, I've created 7 days worth of scheduling. So you can do this. If you want to move it around, you can pick any day, you can click and slide it. So easiest scheduler in the industry. And obviously I did not save it, so we'll discard the changes. Next, I'm going to hit the hamburger menu, and we're going to go into permissions. Permissions is the Airbnb mode that we talked about, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but I just wanted to show you if the user had multiple properties where it says home there on the screen. When I click that, it would show both properties. So I would select Keith Roberts. The full access, if I touch that button, here's where you set partial, full, or administrative. If you select partial, we now give you the menu of equipment that you can pick and choose and then lock out your heater, turn on the pool light to specific colors if need be. So that is permissions. And that was a quick one. All right, next we'll touch the hamburger menu and I'll go ahead and show you the energy usage. And I'm going to click on monthly because it just looks better to fill out the file a little bit. So keep in mind this is demo data. However, you see the cost in my pool is $67 a month to an electric, $64 in gas. The middle information is that same information in a bar chart. And then down at the bottom of the page, we actually break it out by piece of equipment. So if you had multiple pumps running, you would have the ability to see what each pump is costing you. One thing that I failed to mention, we have the ability to control any manufacturer's equipment in any configuration, and that's a big selling point. I should have brought that up earlier. Keep in mind, I can run multiple, and I'll just refer to the big three here, Hayward, Jandy, and Pentair pumps all at the same time. I can run about 50 Hayward pumps, between 16 to 20 Jandy and Pentair pumps. Not only can I operate all of those pumps at the same time, but if you have one go down with an alert or an issue, I'm going to populate a card that lets you know which pump went down and exactly what's wrong with it. I'm going to offer a full description of the code that it populated, as well as some minor troubleshooting steps like resetting a breaker or something like that. As the service company, that's the information that you would see in your client list that I referred to earlier, and I will show you that during the demo. Next, I'm going to hit the hamburger menu, and we'll look at water quality. Now, I want to spend just a couple of minutes on my water quality report. So we are NSF 50 listed for commercial properties. We can control multiple bodies of water. Because of that, we also now have dual chemistry. What that means is that we have the ability to control and dose and monitor two completely separate bodies of water and pool pads, and do pH and ORP on both bodies of water out of one automation system. So we have the ability to control two completely separate pads out of one unit. And in today's world, if you wanted to do that with a competitor's automation system, you would be purchasing two automation systems possibly and two chemistry controllers. So when you look at the cost involved, it is much less expensive to go this route with our dual chemistry in a unit if you have the need for that. So in this graph, it is scrollable and stored in the cloud. So as far back as you want to scroll, you can look at it. One of the nice features here is anywhere you touch on these graphs, we actually give you the value for that day, or excuse me, that time. We also let you know the day, the time, and the value is what I was trying to say. My apologies. I've spit it out for you. So we're monitoring the pH here and the ORP. We also, in this particular demo, our ORP is monitoring the salt chlorine generator. So one of the nice things that we can do with chemistry, if you're controlling a salt chlorine generator and monitoring it with ORP, we can set that up to automatic. We allow you to program your own dosing table, so you can bring that ORP in as slowly or as quickly as you want. It's just a really nice feature to have. We also control the pump speed. So as output increases and you need more chlorine in the pool and the salt generator kicks in, we'll actually increase the speed of the pump to push those chemicals out into the pool and get them mixed in really well. And when output decreases, we'll slow the speed of the pump down as well. The autofill, I don't have that set up in the demo, but if we did, it would appear here. This is the water quality report where autofill would appear. All right, next, let's go down to the clients list. So near the bottom of the page, I'm going to click on that. You saw this in a picture a while ago. but I wanted you to get a better idea. Now, these are salespeople and demo accounts, but just to give you an idea of the information you may find, uh, we'll just pick on Kevin Witt. Actually, let's go back up. We'll go with Phil Dietz because he's rocking it with 20 alerts. So on the very top one, he has 20 alerts going on his pool. And these are all NSF lab testing. So that was a poor decision. Dave Snyder, here we go. So Dave Snyder's, my bad. Dave is the one I was looking for, and he was right under my nose the whole time. So just to give you an idea, Dave has some malfunctioning actuators, which if you'll recall, we turned the pumps off when the actuators fail. He has an alert saying he needs some filtering to be done. And then he's got some devices and temp sensor errors. So just to give you an example, I'm going to click on that top malfunctioning actuator. And it's going to let you know that we detected that actuator number 3, three-way on port number 4 stopped spinning today at 12:34. So the very first thing we tell you is the exact date and time that we find this alert. And then we're going to tell you to check and make sure that it's plugged in and the motor's working. So you want to check your wiring. And if none of your actuators are working, we actually have a fuse located in our panel that may have blown. But then, so we protect our actuators with fuse so that if you had an actuator failure, you're not going to lose that entire board. Okay. So that's another nice feature. If you have 3 actuators installed and one of your actuator ports gets fried, you simply can move that actuator to one of the open ports and reprogram it instead of having to replace an entire control board. That very last line, pumps will not run until this is addressed. That is that safety that we have built in for you. Now, let's say that you were sitting at the house on Sunday afternoon. Your largest client called up and said, I've got a schedule problem. I'm in the middle of a party. We've all heard this, right? Always having a party. But on Sunday afternoon, they may want you to come out and fix that schedule so that they can get the pool up and running. With us, you don't have to leave your couch. You can scroll down to the bottom of that client and switch to his site. And immediately you are now in Dave's test 16 site. So now I could go in, now he doesn't have any schedules created, but I could go in, make any edits to the schedule, any changes that I needed to make while I'm still sitting on my couch on Sunday afternoon. And I could charge them a virtual service fee of maybe half of what I normally charge to drive to their home on a weekend. So while I'm sitting on my couch, I got paid for doing 10 minutes worth of work that today would probably take me 2 to 3 hours if it were a decent drive time. So that's a very nice benefit that's built in. All right, and from there, I want to go down to alerts and history down at the very bottom of the page in small letters. So as I mentioned earlier, alerts and history records every single thing that happens on our system, whether it's freeze protect, as you see here on the screen. Now, keep in mind, I'm still in Dave's test site. Whether Eric, who's one of our employees, did something, Dave, who's one of our employees, but basically anything that happens in this pool is recorded. So you could certainly look back if you needed to prove one way or another. Let's say you were a service company, you came in and cleaned the pool, and you forgot to turn the equipment back on when you left. Well, keep in mind the consumer could look that up and prove that you forgot to turn it on. But here's a really nice feature. Even though you're 3 jobs away, as soon as you realize that you forgot to turn their equipment back on, you could immediately log into your app, switch to their site, and turn their equipment back on. No problem. At the top of the page, there are 4 tabs. The second one is alerts, and we know Dave has some alerts. So it's just, this is where the consumer would see them. And then temperature, we constantly monitor the ambient temperature if we have an ambient sensor, or we can use the web to do that as well if you don't have an ambient sensor. But the ambient will always be there. The only time you will see green for pool or yellow for spa is if that water is currently circulating. And then last but not least, how many times have we driven to job sites just to find out the consumer's Wi-Fi is down, right? What a waste of time and money for us. Check this out. If I touch that Wi-Fi button, I actually can see the customer's Wi-Fi signal right here on the app. That red line is kind of our bottom of the barrel. If their signal is dancing on that line, we will still operate, but we may be a little slow. We may lag a little bit. If you've got an impatient person, tell them don't keep tapping the button. It'll light up in just a second. And then, of course, if you're anywhere in the middle, you're good to go. We will have no issues with Wi-Fi. Next, I would like to deselect Dave's site. One thing I do want to mention, since I'm still in Dave's test site, with our system, if you were to log out of this app for the weekend, go home, come back on Monday and log back in for your next client, if you forget, you will still be in Dave's test site. We remember the last place you were. And I know our competition doesn't do that, right? If you accidentally get kicked out or have a Wi-Fi issue or anything like that, they have to log back into 2 different platforms or more to see the customer's information, where we have it right here built into the app. So all you have to do is touch deselect, and I'm now back into my app. The last thing I want to talk about before we take questions is going to be lighting. So to get to lighting, I want to show you how to program or set up a customized color show. So under the maintenance tab down at the bottom, right above alerts and history, we're going to click on that. And then we're going to come down to the 3rd setting, which is light settings. Now, the first thing I want to point out on this screen is the middle button, and that says sync lights. This works with any manufacturer's lights, whether it's Hayward, Jandy, Pentair, SR Smith, Savvy. We work with all of those lights, or DMX lighting. Now, the difference is if you click sync lights with other manufacturers' lighting, we have to do their sequence or the sync sequence, if you will. It's a secret handshake that you do in the background. We will do that for you, but give us probably about 15 to 20 seconds to get that sync done. With PAL lighting or DMX lighting, as soon as you touch that sync lights button, it is instant. They are synchronized. And that is one of the reasons why we promote the DMX lighting. At the top, the color palette, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to hit the add button in the top right corner. This is how you create custom color shows for your pool. So touch the color wheel anywhere you want it. Notice my color is changing as I'm moving that color wheel around. When you get it where you want it, now you need to tell us how long you want that green color lit. So the bottom slider, as you move it to the right, you can see the numbers going up. This is 10 seconds. You can go all the way over to 60 seconds if you would like. So we'll set that first one at 10 seconds or 9. Right above that, you see a thing called fade in duration. This is how long it's going to take that green color to transition to whatever color I choose next. Okay, so this is the speed of the show. The more to the left where it is now, the faster your show will be. It'll be blinking very quickly. If you move that slider to the right, say 1,000 milliseconds, that's 1 second to transition. And we allow you to go up to a full 3 seconds. You need to set this actually for every single color. So now I've got my green is going to stay on for 9 seconds. It's going to take about a half a second to transition to the next color. So now I'm going to simply touch the plus button beside the green. We will randomly pick another color, but you can dial that in wherever you want it. Again, maybe you want this one to stay on 18 seconds. Maybe you want it to take almost 2 seconds to transition to the next color. And you can pick as many colors as you like, but do know that if you just did what I did by simply, I just kept hitting the plus button, you need to go back and set how long you want each color lit. Otherwise, you're going to have 1 second of color and a quick flash to the next one. So it's going to be the fastest show you've probably ever seen. Once you get all the colors set the way you want them, simply give the show a name and then save it. So you could do your favorite sports teams here. I have a friend that loves to put his pool on red every Halloween and put dummies in it so that it looks like he has bodies floating in the pool. So your imagination is where this light ends. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and I won't be able to demonstrate it, unfortunately, today because I am traveling, but sync lights to music. I'll go ahead and touch it just so you can see. The only thing that you have to do on this screen is click save in the top right corner after you've got Spotify playing. But notice the lights included. This is a 2-zone controller. All right. You have to have at least one zone turned in to make them turned on, rather, to make them dance. But you can pick and choose your zones. So if you had one area of the yard that was very annoying to your neighbor, you might leave those lights off and then have the rest of your yard dancing to the beat of the music. One point that I want to bring up at the bottom of the page, the sync offset. If you are ever in a situation where the Wi-Fi signal may be a little weak and the pulsing is not exactly to the beat of the music, we allow you to set an offset for that weak signal. So we will help correct it. Basically, you'll slide it, hit save, make sure that it's now pulsing the way you want it to. If not, slide it again and hit save again. But you do have to hit save after every time you move it. All right, so hopefully, I know I went really fast and I had a lot to cover, and I was trying to get it all taken care of in that hour time frame, and I nailed it, 3:45. So now we're good to take some questions. If we had, I'm sure we probably had some good questions come in.
We sure did. And that was just really impressive, Keith. I couldn't help but focus in on a couple things that just appealed to me. I mean, the having the lights able to dance to your Spotify playlist. I mean, I gotta see that.
Yeah.
And I noticed, taking care of your customer's pool problem from your couch on a Sunday afternoon. You're watching the NCAA tournament,
There you
and
go.
you can do it at halftime or something like that. Is what I was seeing in my head. That's some really cool stuff.
Thank you.
We did get a lot of questions. We probably won't get to all of them, but for every question that is submitted, you will get a response, but perhaps directly by email instead of here on the webinar. So we'll get started. And this is back on the lighting, and I think you mentioned this, but it's good. It bears emphasis. Does the attendant accept other manufacturers' lighting?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. So any of the pool industry lighting that's out there currently, and keep in mind, folks, we boast that we can control any manufacturer's equipment in any configuration in the pool industry. So if you have a light that's unique that is not controlled and you're wanting to put an attendant on there, reach out to us and find out if we already have the ability to do it. Maybe we just haven't added it to the library yet. And if not, we'll certainly take a look at it and see if it's something that we can accommodate. We try to accommodate anything that's out there. Now, keep in mind, we get some crazy requests, but yes, we should be able to control any manufacturer's lighting out there today.
Sweet. What about the plastic box? Does it have UV inhibitors in the plastic so it will resist the rays of the sun?
Absolutely. And if you get an opportunity to see one, whether it be at a pool show or on a job site, this is super heavy duty plastic. It is not anything light. We currently have many units installed in super hot areas. Arizona is a very good market for us right now. 120-degree heat. We've been out there for 2 and 3 years, no issues. I will say this, though, the screen that's on our actual unit, not the app, but the actual screen on the attendant itself, it is just like an iPhone screen. So if you were in 120-degree heat and left the panel open, our screen is going to go black and protect itself just like an iPhone would. And then once you close the screen and the temperature gets down to around 80 degrees, that screen will fully come back. So we've had customers call in looking for warranty replacement for that exact reason, but ultimately it was not a warranty. The screen is just like your iPhone.
Here's a question about the temperature reading. Does that ambient temperature reading come from the air temp sensor or from the internet that you're reading?
So we can do it either way. And the reason we like to have a physical ambient sensor is our unit works when it is connected to Wi-Fi. If you have a unit programmed and schedules created, we also continue to function without Wi-Fi. However, If we don't have a physical sensor and we don't have Wi-Fi, we have no way of knowing what that body of water's temperature is. So we are ambient temperature, I should say, not body of water, but the ambient temperature. So we have a hard time doing our predictions effectively and things like that. So we prefer to have an ambient sensor physically, but if not, we can utilize, and we monitor multiple weather services because of our ability to predict that heating. So we definitely will not have any issues with that.
Do you have a release date yet on the light version? Is there a
The
light version?
mini, there is. So I wasn't sure if I was going to bring that up today, but thank you for that question because I really wanted to. We are looking to release the mini, and the mini basically will not have a screen. It's going to have two of all the ports that we basically went over, with the exception of actuators. We'll have three actuator ports, but we'll have two high voltage relays, two sensor ports, blah, 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 right? We are currently scheduled to release at the end of the second quarter. So the end of June is our scheduled release date. And when we release that, we'll go ahead and throw this out there as well. We also are looking to release an expansion panel for the mini as well. And then following that will come an expansion panel for the full size Attendant. So we're kind of doing that in order. But yes, the second quarter, end of second quarter is our goal.
Now about the recording function, can you control what gets recorded?
So I'm assuming they're either talking about water quality reporting or if they're talking about alerts and history, I'm not sure. However, we don't really control the recording. So we are fully transparent. I think I know where that question was headed.
Yeah.
We want the consumer to see the same thing that the service guy sees. That's the same thing that we see. So everybody gets one app, one platform, and everybody sees everything. And I know that scares some service guys, but trust me when I tell you, our app is so simple to use, they have a hard time messing it up. I mean that sincerely. Now, yes, can they go in and adjust chemical values and things like that? Sure, they could. But at the end of the day, if you set it for them and let them know that, hey, you don't need to mess with that, I know they're still going to at some point. But we do believe in transparency because one of our goals was to make life easy for the end user. And we believe that, they paid for it, they bought it, they deserve to have access to it.
I for one admire transparency, so I'm all behind that. Can it communicate with home automation systems? For instance,
So, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yes, we do currently. We are working on adding more to our library. Currently, we work with Elon and Control4. We are working on, what was the one you just said? It left me.
Lutron.
We're working on Lutron and Crestron, I believe, are the next two in order. I'm not sure. Crestron might be in front of Lutron, but we are working on adding more home automation.
Here's an interesting one. Are there touch panels that you could use inside the house, or is it just a phone app?
So I love this question. It's not just a phone app, it's a smart, no, I'm kidding. Yes, we do not have an external display to be mounted in a home. The app is our primary connection. However, we have very detailed instructions as well as suggested parts on how to purchase a wall mount and install it to where it looks just like you had a physical controller screen mounted in your home. It's in a nice plastic enclosure. The power's done behind it. And then we can actually set that tablet up, whether it be an iPad. We prefer an iPad, obviously, but it doesn't have to be. But we can set that tablet up where it stays lit and only displays that app. So we don't sell or manufacture an external display, but we certainly supply you with direction on how to get your own internal, I should say external display for your home is what I mean.
Are different DMX lights individually addressable / programmable?
Yes. That's the easiest answer to that.
So more than one.
Yeah, you do have to have a driver or a controller to wire those DMX lights into. But yes, DMX lights are fully programmable, so you can wire other manufacturers' lighting, I guess, if you needed to.
Got it. Does your chemical control board provide dry contacts to power up injection pumps, or do we have to utilize a relay for each injection pump?
You would need to utilize a relay, I believe. Now, I'm not 100% certain on that one. If you'll flag that, I'll make sure we get that 100% correct answer in. But I'm pretty sure we utilize relays for those pumps, but that may not be correct. So I'll get that answer for you.
This is a question about the music app that you're using. Will other music apps be included in the future, such as Pandora, iHeartRadio, etc.?
We would love to include all of the platforms. Unfortunately, right now, Spotify is the only one that releases the data that we need. We will certainly work toward getting other platforms if they will release that data to us. But as of right now, Spotify is the only one. But keep in mind, if you don't have a Spotify account, it is free. Yes, you will have commercials, but you still can at least listen to your music. And the answer that I just gave you, a coworker let me know that I was correct in saying that we do utilize relays for the dispensing pumps and tanks.
Can you talk about what kind of load center you would need to use with the Attendant?
So it really depends on the equipment that's on the pad. I mean, you don't need anything major. You think about the load centers that are included currently. I don't know like how many amp service you're going to need. It really is dependent on how much equipment you're going to have on that pad. But I do know that load centers are not extremely expensive, and they're probably less expensive than the $300 antenna, that our competitors sell you to get their Wi-Fi signal in and out of a metal box. We don't have that issue. So, it also, let's think about this for just a second. If you were doing a remodel, let's say that the customer already had an automation system on the wall and they're going to upgrade to the Attendant, we have the ability, or a legacy automation kit that we sell. And basically what we would do is leave the old automation system on the wall. We would utilize the load center or the breaker panel from their system, right? So you could leave all your equipment still wired in the old box. But we also sell a wiring kit that allow you to leave the high voltage relays in the old box as well. And you can quickly convert it just by wiring it into the relay in the old box, running that wire through the conduit, and then plugging it into our relay port. So the old automation system will become the relay center as well as the breaker panel or load center. So we have an option out there for remodels. Obviously, for a new build, you're going to need a load center. But for remodels, we do have a workaround, if you will, or a way to do that less expensive. Might as well utilize what's already there and wired, correct?
Sense. We have a question about, say it's a very complex job and installation. How is this handled? Are there reps who could come out and give you a hand with that?
There are. We have sales groups all over the country. So if you are interested in knowing who that rep is, certainly reach out to us. You can go to poolsidetech.com or poolside.tech, and we'll be glad. We have a support tab that you can send us an email. We'll be glad to let you know who that rep is. But we have sales reps all over the country. We also offer installation support. So if you wanted to do your first install and you would like for us to come out and assist with that, we can certainly do that. We'll fly an installer out, and he will actually stay with your team through the installation, as well as train them and make sure that they program it correctly and that everything is working before he leaves. Another thing I wanted to bring up is our support. One thing that's really important to Poolside Tech is we want to be responsive, right? We don't want people waiting on the phone for 2 and 3 hours. So when you call in to us, you're actually going to be speaking to Poolside Tech employees, not an outsourced call center. We have the ability, just like our customers can remote into their clients, we can remote into any system. And usually we see the problem before the customer's even finished explaining what the problem is. And sometimes we already have it corrected. So when you're looking for a new level of support, a higher support level than you've ever experienced, we can remote in and physically do things for you and help you. If you're stuck programming, we know exactly where you are. We're not reading a manual trying to guess where you're at. We come right into that system and see exactly what's going on and help you correct that issue.
That's pretty amazing. I like that capability. Next question: where can I buy this from the manufacturer or my local pool supplier?
Your local pool supplier should. If they don't have them in stock, they should. And if they don't, they certainly can order them. So we are in all of the major pool distributors throughout the country: SCP, Pool Corp, Heritage, and I know I'm going to leave several out, and I apologize. But yes, we have. We definitely sell through distribution.
Got it. Can the Attendant replace the Pentair and Telechem controller in the controlling of a Pentair chlorine and acid dosers?
Yes. Yeah, so our system is a full chemistry controller. We can just monitor if that's how you want to set it up, but we can also monitor and dose. But we give you some really nice flexibility when you're setting up chemistry in our system, like I mentioned earlier, about having the ability to literally do your own dosing table, to tell us, what percentage output does it need to be from, say, 3 to 500, and then from 5 to 700, you may want it to reduce a little bit. We give you full programmability on that. So yes, we can do that, and we would replace an IntelliChem completely. One thing I did fail to mention, and I want to bring this up because some people get confused. When I talk about chemistry, you only need, and chemistry is the only add-on that we sell. That's an additional purchase for that. But you only need chemistry if you're running pH and ORP. We can operate any manufacturer's salt chlorine generator just the exact same way the manufacturer operates that. But one caveat is I would need a power center or a way to plug in their salt chlorine generator into their system. And then we would just take the smart communication over and control that salt system. So.
Okay, interesting. What will the expansion board bring to the Attendant?
So for the full size, it's basically going to, we haven't finalized it yet, but I'm pretty certain it's going to basically double what you have today. So 8 high voltage relays will go to 16. All the ports that were 5, whether it's the switch port, low voltage relays, or temp sensor ports, are going to double to 10. And then your serial bus port should go from 4 to 8. So basically, it's another complete system without the brain.
Excellent. I noticed that we're creeping over our allotted time, and a lot of people watch this during their lunch hour and are headed back. So I think we've got time for one more. And this question is there a service mode that allows us to bypass alerts / lockouts in order to test service equipment, or just keep a pool running for a party per se? I'm not sure I even understood that.
I don't know that I would want to keep it running for the party, but I get the point. And yes, we on the panel itself, there is a service mode if you do not have access to an app that you can go in and physically turn equipment on to get things rolling. Also, in our system, when you go into installer mode, and I didn't demo that today, when you enter installer mode, it shuts all equipment off, everything shuts down, and then you can manually turn on each piece of equipment for testing and making sure that that piece of equipment is working. So absolutely there is.
Okay. Well, I think that'll do it for today. I want to thank you, Keith. That was very informative. I learned a lot about a really amazing product. And I want to thank everyone for coming to the webinar. I know everyone's got a lot left to do today, so we can all get back to the pool business, and we'll see you all next time.
All right. Thanks for having me. Y'all have a great day.